This episode of the Kingdom of Graph is sponsored by the Autograph of the Month Club, where for just $20 a month, you can get a signed 8x10 photo in the mail. Please visit them at www.autographofthemonth.com. Use promo code KINGDOM to get a bonus welcome autograph with your first subscription. Listeners, prepare thyself, for you are about to witness two fine gentlemen muse upon the fandom realm, for you have ventured upon the Kingdom of Graph. Hosted by Marco Guerrero and Michael Berkowitz.
Hey, welcome to the Kingdom of Graph. I'm Marco.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Temar.
Welcome, Temar. How's it going?
I'm excellent. Feeling good.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us today. You taking your time. You are the artistic director at a theater in Syracuse, New York?
Yeah, my official title is Associate Director of Artistic Programming, which, you know, for all intents and purposes, is an artistic director.
Okay.
But yeah, the Redhouse Art Center in Syracuse, New York. It's a regional theater doing good work.
Great. Sorry for the delay, everybody. We had kind of a technical issue with YouTube. It wasn't letting us go live for some reason.
Long story short, Marco is too powerful for YouTube, and he had to lower his power level.
Yep. I had to go all the way down to 7,000.
Just so everybody knows, you guys were panicking to make it happen.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise, we were going to have to go to Facebook and, you know.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Nobody wants
We didn't
that.
want to leave everybody waiting.
Right.
So I know Temar from, some off-Broadway stuff in New York. I think I first saw you in the production of Galactic Girl and Attack of the Starbarians at the Brick Theater.
Yeah, at the Brick Theater, and then we moved it to New York Comic Con. It's a great play by John Hoche. It's been so long that I hardly remember what it's about.
See,
I've been in so many comic book theater plays,
right?
That all the plots have amalgamated in my head. But yeah, that was a great show, and I remember I played a
Starbarian.
I played a general.
Oh.
I don't think I was a Starbarian. Maybe I was a Starbarian. I don't know. John's gonna hate me because I'm like, I don't remember what the plot was. But I played a Starbarian. No, I didn't play a Starbarian. I played a general, but maybe he was a general of the Starbarians. I don't even remember.
There was three girls in bikinis running around being attacked by guys in furry red, like caveman type.
Right.
Outfits.
And I sort of played the flamboyant general who was giving all the orders. And then I played like a wise Yoda-like sage that like dies at the end. Oh my God. That dies at the end. I can't remember his name. I think it was Fufu, something like that.
Yeah, General Fufu. That's what it was.
General Fufu.
Yeah.
Yeah,
who happened to be flamboyant.
It was a lot of fun. Who just happened to be very flamboyant.
Right. Oh, well, I loved it so much when I saw it at the Brick Theater that I reached out to my contacts because I've been working with New York Comic Con for so long. I was like, this is perfect. We had to do it live on stage in the middle of 100,000 people.
Yeah, it was so much fun, and we got to be over the top, and there was so much improv in it. Yeah, because the character was so flamboyant. I would say things like, drop in and give me 10. And then the actor would drop on their knees and start doing push-ups, and I would say, no, I meant $10.
It was crazy because like I had Kevin Sorbo as a celebrity guest at the show at a table. So I'm sitting there with Kevin Sorbo like helping, making sure like the autograph signing is going well, and then bouncing back to see how you guys were doing, and then bouncing back and forth. It was a crazy time. And then Kevin like took Saturday off to go to a golf tournament where they were honoring him in Michigan, and then he flew back, for Sunday. It was just a crazy weekend. But
yeah, it was a lot of fun. When was
that? Was 2011,
like,
I believe, or 13.
Oh, so 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Like almost 10 years ago? Yeah, that's why I don't remember the plot.
There you go. And then you were part of, you came into the second season of the Vampire Cowboys theater troupe, correct?
Well, I mean, so I went, so Vampire Cowboys is Quee Gwen and Robert Ross Parker and Abby Marcus sort of started the company. But I went to college with Quee and Robert. Right. So I was there during the very first conception of Vampire Cowboys. Okay. And then when we all sort of left college and came to New York to follow our hopes and dreams, they were like, we're going to do these shows. And I wasn't in the first I was in the first one.
It was this. I just looked at the website. It said season 2 because season 0 had 3 people or 5 or 6 people. Season 1 only had I think 1 person. I think it was a 1-man show or something.
Yes. Yeah, they did sort of. So Quee is a amazing writer, and he's sort of at the forefront of he was at the forefront of comic book theater. Mm-hmm. In downtown New York in the early to mid aughts, and he happens to be one of the screenwriters on the new Disney movie, the Raya the Last Dragon.
Yeah,
right. So he's the one of the principal writers on that. But yeah, he was at the forefront of comic book theater then, and I think the first couple of plays were sort of just we're doing regular sort of kitchen sink drama plays. And I think there was a moment where he was like, fuck this. I'm going to do comic book theater, which is what I want to do. I want to have girls and fights and ninjas and shit like that. And I think that once he decided to really be his authentic self in terms of his writing, then his career sort of took off. And I was really proud to be a part of that in the beginning.
And Robert does a lot of stuff with puppets, right? He had always had these amazing puppets in a lot of the shows.
Yeah, I mean, Quee was basically the writer and Robert was the director, and they collaborated on everything. Mm-hmm. I think Robert is he's just a brilliant director, and he just decided many times, let's use a puppet here.
Yeah.
I don't know that he would call himself a puppet guy, but
I think that's just mainly what I've seen of his,
Right. Well, I mean, I think that he likes to bring those elements into the productions.
And then you are a writer, director, actor yourself, aside from acting, I guess. And you had 3 shows at the Fringe Festival. The first one was the Lady Drug Dealer and the Heist, right? Yeah. And then you had Breaking Kayfabe and then A Spot on the Wall.
Right.
Breaking Kayfabe, we were just talking earlier, was a stroke of genius, I think, on your part to tell the story of a wrestler's career through a podcast. And again, this was 2013, I believe.
Yeah.
And then, so tell us a little bit about that show and how that came together. And
well, yeah, so I've been a lifelong professional wrestling fan, since, I don't know. The first thing I remember, one of my earliest memories is my brother sitting me in front of the television and this big, huge, scary dude called King Kong Bundy, jumping, splashing, jumping on Hulk Hogan over and over again. And then Hulk Hogan having to be carried away in the stretcher. And I felt such empathy and worry for this clearly good man in Hulk Hogan being terrorized by this guy, and was in tears about it. That's my earliest memory of wrestling. That's the first thing I saw, which was the lead up to WrestleMania 2. So I've just always been a huge fan of wrestling. And as I watched it throughout the years, and you get older and you're like, oh, this is not sport. This is more performance.
Right.
And because I'm an actor and a performer, my perception of it shifted, and I didn't stop being a fan. I sort of started looking at it in a different way, because I'm like, oh, these are performers. Like, it's all performance from start to beginning, and it's genius. It's like one of the great American art forms, in my opinion. But so I love wrestling, and I'm also a playwright, and I was like, I want to write a play about wrestling. There is a play about wrestling. There's a play about wrestling called The Elaborate Entrance of Chad Deity, which is a brilliant, wonderful play. But that play sort of uses wrestling as a catalyst to explore other topics, right? I wanted to write a play about wrestling that explored wrestling and didn't sort of try to use it to explore other types of issues in humanity. And so I said, how do I do this? How do I tell the story of a wrestler through, the course of a 2-hour play? And I'm like, the way they do it now is on podcasts, right? Because in 2013, 2012, 2011, all of these wrestling podcasts came out, that where wrestlers just went on and just told their whole life story over the course of 2 hours for free for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, if I take a fictional wrestler and create their whole story, and then decide that, they're going to go tell their story to a podcast, and then the podcast can, the stories he's telling can jump out into live action on stage, that'll be compelling and interesting. So I wrote it. And
just to paint the picture for everybody, right? So you go to the theater, and on stage you have, on the stage left, you have the podcast set up, right? The guy and the interview, right? It's dark. You got the spotlight on them. He starts telling the story, about how he first gets into wrestling, and then boom, the light shifts to a ring set up on the left side of the stage, and you start actually having live wrestling on stage in the middle of the theater, reenacting as they're telling the story.
Yeah.
Of his favorite matches.
Yeah. Favorite matches and favorite moments, and like tragic moments and backstage moments. So I thought it was really interesting and compelling. But it was a bitch for the actors. Because wrestling is no joke, and so we had to do stage combat. So I brought in this wrestler. His name is the Greek god Papadon, who's an indie wrestler, and he came in to sort of do the fight choreography for us. And the first rehearsal, he's teaching everybody to do a flat back bump, which is just falling on your back like a wrestler does, which is very different than a stage fall. And I tell you, those actors were like, I don't think I can do this. It is, and wrestlers have said this too. It's like their come to Jesus moment. If you can do a flat back bump where you hurl your body to the mat, and the thing that people don't understand is that the ring in wrestling is not a trampoline. Right. It's like huge springs with a plywood over the springs, and then a very thin mat. So what they're landing on is not a trampoline, or it is not soft, right? So you have actors that aren't trained wrestlers learning to do this. It was really interesting, and I felt bad for them. So, but they learned it.
It was a dark story too, man. I remember he had a drug opioid abuse, and this was 10 or 15 years later, right, in his life, and his career ended when he killed his mentor on a move, right? He was like, I can pull this move off, I can pull this off, but he was high as hell, right. And and so he's been living, and he was blackballed from wrestling, and because the guy he killed was super popular. I mean, like I said,
right, yeah.
Telling the story through the podcast was amazing, and I was talking earlier about, Kui and how he did the same thing with the D&D module for She Kills Monsters. I thought it was absolutely genius how this woman was able to understand her dead sister's life through a D&D campaign.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Quee's genius. I wish I was as good of a writer as he is. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can pull off a good play, once in a while, but he is so prolific. He just churns them out, and they're all so compelling and interesting.
Well, like I said,
it just goes to show that if you have passion about something,
you're right there, man. Like I said, I have two favorite shows that I saw in New York off Broadway. It was The Breaking Kayfabe and She Kills Monsters. So take that for what you want. That I hold them both up there.
Well, thank you so much. It was a great process. I'm working on trying to turn it into a series.
Right. And it didn't help that I was a producer on it.
You were, because we had to build that ring. And the thing about the Fringe Festival is that the shows run in rep, meaning that there's a show, and then 15 minutes after you, in that same space, there's another show. So we not only had to build a ring, we had to build a ring that could be constructed and deconstructed in 15 minutes.
Right.
So that was the real challenge. So all the people that sort of helped financially with that were awesome, because that was a real challenge. And luckily I had great designers that were able to figure it out.
So Michael, do you want to take some of the comments that we're getting right now?
Yeah, so we got Karen. Karen says that she loves wrestling as well. When she used to wrestle the boys and make them cry. And
That's
yeah, and then we have Adam, who is actually joining us from the UK, and he's saying he's also a playwright and does a lot of the Fringe in the UK, and thinks that your show would have been extremely well received.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I've always wanted to do what is it called? Is it Edinburgh Fringe, or is he talking about something else?
I don't know.
Because I know that.
Yeah, I know that Edinburgh is like the big one. That's like the Super Bowl of Fringe festivals, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. The thing that really is tough about it is the ring for that show.
Yeah.
You gotta figure out how to get the ring there, and then be able to. I'm not sure how I assume it's the same thing. We have to construct it and deconstruct it really quickly. Yeah. So that's always a challenge.
I remember I was at San Diego Comic-Con one year, and I think this was at the time they were trying to launch another brand. Like, I think it was TNA or something like that.
TNA.
So this would have been about like 2008 or 9. And I was at a party at the Hard Rock. And, it was one of like the entertainment, like one of the big parties of San Diego. And they actually had a ring set up and had like matches going on during the party. Just to kind of promote, all that. And I know I grew up on Portland wrestling back when it was still regional. And you had Roddy Piper, and, I was probably the same, like younger. And we had Tom Peterson and the local wrestling at the Armory, and they used to run these commercials all the time, and it would come on at like 1 a.m. Saturday nights. And it was a lot of wrestlers came out of there. Like I said, I got to know Roddy Piper when I got older because he was from there. But my mom used to tell me stories of my great grandmother. When they first got the first TV, like, black and white, and they had like the old school wrestling. She was like this old woman, in a rocker up in front of the TV with like all the people, because back then you only had one TV for like the whole neighborhood. And so they would all come over, and she'd be there with chew in her lip, watching wrestling, screaming at the screen. I heard so many stories of that. And like I said, I would wait up 1 a.m. to watch a lot of those. I don't really remember, other than the experience of watching it, much about them.
Yeah.
But then, I kind of got away from it, and I didn't get back into wrestling till probably 98.
Yeah, when everybody was into it, like the Monday Night Wars era.
And it was pretty much just the pay-per-views. Like I skipped all those, like a soap opera where you can like go away for like 2 months, come back, and it's like the story's only advanced like 5 minutes. And or like old school anime where it was like the first 10 minutes of the anime was them powering up, and then the last 5 minutes was them powering up, and or recap. They only had like 5 minutes of actual, new story every week.
Yeah.
And so we would get together, a bunch of people. It was just an excuse to get together, and hang out.
Yeah. It's a great. It really is the perfect sort of combination of sport and I know Vince McMahon calls it sports entertainment, but it really is the perfect combination because you get stories, but you also get athleticism. So I don't know. I just think it is one of the great American.
I always, when you touched on the athleticism there, I remember one of the things that always impressed me back around that time was when Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman, two of the NBA's greatest, right?
Right.
And we're talking pure athletes. Like Karl Malone is a Greek god, right? That guy is just huge. And Dennis Rodman, probably one of the smartest, mental, tough basketball players ever to play the game. Went and did their stint with the WWE, and all they had to say was, "How do they do it? These guys are monsters. Like they put us to shame, basically."
Yeah. It's a lot of hard work, and doing Breaking Kayfabe, we only got a little taste of it. The actors in that show, and it's a lot of hard work, and you travel the country, and that's why there's so many sad stories, because it's like I revere it as a beautiful art form, but it just like a lot of other things that we love, the people that do it, really suffer through life because there's such a demand for it. You're wrestling 300 matches a year all around the country. Like that doesn't leave time to sort of take care of yourself in a way that is, that is fulfilling. I believe that, not to sound Oprah-ish, but I believe that you have to sort of take care of yourself before you can give to others. Right. And like wrestlers I don't think that they practice that. And a lot of athletes,
because they can't, right? They're not like from what I hear, they run a tight ship. Like you can't be like, you know what, I need to take 2 months off to kind of R&R,
Right. I mean, it's getting better, in recent years, it's getting better. And because I think that enough wrestlers have died and whose lives have been ruined, that the culture around the business has changed to a point where they don't have those schedules as much anymore. It's still very hard work, but there's not as much drugs and steroids and alcohol and traveling in the way that it was in the 80s and 90s. So I think that's good that they're getting to a place where they're taking care of their performers more, and I think that they are.
I just remember when I was growing up, my parents in the living room, they had. Do you guys remember those old Mitsubishi projection TVs that projected off of the mirror? You had to pull that big box down in front. Do you guys remember those? And they project up on the thing. And I just remember sitting as a kid. I would sit as close as I could to that box and still see the screen up there. And I just remember I was obsessed with The Undertaker and the whole story of like The Undertaker and Paul Bearer, and they would come out and this man on TV would just kick people into coffins and you'd never see them again. And it was just next level, like the most larger than life thing that
next level.
Yeah, it was just
he is my favorite wrestler. Like
he is mine as
well. He's my favorite.
I that when he did the whole motorcycle thing is when I kind of left wrestling.
Right. I mean, yeah. He's my favorite wrestler just because he spans basically all eras for someone. Like, I'm 40 years old, so, like, he spans all eras for me. right?
Yeah.
He's like, he came out in the 90s, so I'm 10 years old. And, you know, he just wrestled his last match like a year ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like all eras, and he's always been one of the most popular guys. The thing about the bicycle era is that it lasted like 4 years, but it was kind of necessary in the sense that the character just needed to evolve a little bit. It was like he's the dead man, and from a theatrical standpoint, I think we needed to see the man for just a little while, so that when he became the dead man, there is some sort of human connection that we all have with him, and then we cared about him even more than we did before.
No, it was that was one of the big moments when he came back to being just the normal Undertaker again.
Right.
It was such a big moment.
It was a big moment, and I think it was big because I think it made his longevity so much, because we finally got to see the human being for a little while. Then that connection to the human being really solidified his career, because then we really care about him. And it's like, oh, he lost. Like, when he lost to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 30, and the WrestleMania streak ended. You know, it's like, you know, it's good television. I think when wrestling is really good, when it's really bad, it's the worst. But it is the worst. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to invite my friends over to watch wrestling, and I'm like, I'm so
it's
sorry.
like an episode featuring R-Truth.
Yeah. So
I like R-Truth, but, you know.
But when it's really good, I think it stands up to the best television.
I mean, there's a reason why it's been around, you know, for so long. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Have you ever gone to any live events?
Oh, yes. I've been, so WrestleMania 30, 35? WrestleMania 35, and I think WrestleMania 28 or 9. I can't remember exactly. We're both at MetLife Stadium here in the tri-state area, and I went to both. The one a few years ago, I just bought tickets for with a bunch of friends. We actually, this is how much of a wrestling nerd I am. We rented a limo to drive us to MetLife Stadium. We rolled up in a limo. Nice. And we were only shown up by one other person who arrived in a hearse. Which was like, gosh, why did we think of that? But a couple years ago, I think it was 35. I can't remember exactly. But a friend of mine happened to work for the Pyro Company, and they needed people to like odd jobs and stuff. So 35, I got to like go to, like, my call was 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium, and I got to be backstage at WrestleMania and just like see all the guys, and I'm like, oh shit, that's Shawn Michaels, and oh shit, that's Edge, and yeah, that was an amazing thing, and it was important because that was the first WrestleMania when the women main evented the show, because it was like Ronda Rousey doing it, and that was an awesome experience because it's just being backstage and just feeling like you're like a part of the crew was. And
that was a massive. That was MetLife, or was that like somewhere else? I thought that was because it was like a huge open, right? Like,
no, it was MetLife Stadium. Yeah. It's like 80,000 people.
Yeah, there was another one that I think that they did. The last one I remember, you know, I think they had the giant ramp that led down, and then they had the stage. Yeah, I think The Rock showed up.
Well, I think
it was a tag team with Ronda Rousey and somebody else against. I don't know.
I can't remember. I forget. There's been
they blur together, right?
That I forget. Yeah, the numbers. But Ronda Rousey tag teamed with Kurt Angle to wrestle Triple H and Stephanie McMahon.
Right. Yeah, I remember that one.
I think recent WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so
I remember the last. I think it was last WrestleMania. It was the funniest thing. All of the TikTok videos and the short little Facebook videos of everybody's like live reaction in stadium and at home when Edge came back out. That was
the Royal Rumble.
That was the funniest. Yeah. That was the funny.
Yeah.
The amount of reaction videos that people put out of them like freaking out when he came out.
Because he had been gone for 9 years.
It was so good. Like people like that's the thing though, like that childhood like joy. Like people were like screaming and crying and as soon as his theme song hit.
I remember him. He was on a sci-fi show.
What was that show?
It was like some like show up in Maine, Point something or Hollow, or he played like this creepy like guy that just kind of fixed things. Like he would, after like something would happen, his job was to like clean it up, like some supernatural event, or like he was like the cleaner. He'd come clean up the mess so that nobody would realize that something crazy happened here. It was like a weird X-Files station.
One of our viewers will say something. One of them will tell us which one it was.
It had like, I think Elijah Cuthbert or something in it or something. I don't know. But so go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to say, so speaking of the viewers, though, one of them wants to know, Temar, they want to know what is the most rewarding thing about performing on stage for you personally?
Performing?
Yeah, for performing.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you know who Thornton Wilder is? Thornton Wilder wrote Our Town, and a lot of high schools do it. It's this play with two ladders, and it's about this town called Grover's Corners. It's very sort of like this is a slice of America. A lot of people will call it a boring play, but you know, if it's done right, it's really compelling. Anyway, Thornton Wilder has this quote that says, "I regard theater as the greatest of all art forms, the most immediate way in which one human being can share with another a sense of what it is to be a human being." And I really think that applies to all art. It's human beings sharing what it is to be, you know, sharing a sense of what it is to be human beings. And so the important thing for me on stage really happens after, when you're like walking away and someone just approaches you and tells you how much it affected them or how it connected to their life in some way. To me, that's the most rewarding, because then I know that as a performer, we've made that human connection. So yeah, that's the most thrilling thing.
Have you ever had the reverse experience of that?
Meaning
where it was you did that to someone else, like the reverse, like you going up to like you going to the Undertaker and being like, "Hi."
Dude, honestly, if I had a moment to talk to the Undertaker, I would probably not be able to say anything. Do you know what I mean? Because he's just been such a fixture because again, to me, wrestlers are performers, and I regard them as performers. And as a theater person myself, I look at them as fellow artists. And so, like if I'm directing a show, I sometimes am like, man, I wish this actor could have the commitment to their character the way that the Undertaker has the commitment to his character, right? So I feel very influenced by him because wrestlers have made me understand commitment to character. Not all wrestlers, but great wrestlers like the Undertaker have taught me that. So like I would be sort of speechless and would tell him, like, you know, I'm a theater artist, and you probably haven't heard someone say this to you before, but like what you do has really influenced me, not only in my wrestling play, but just in how I approach directing and acting, because I think it's about one of the big things you need to do is commit to the character, and nobody in entertainment commits to their character in the way that the best wrestler.
I got to spend a weekend with DDP at a convention because I was there helping out someone else, and their table was right next to us, and so basically it was me and DDP on the other side of me. And so while we were waiting and in between signings, we would talk, and they don't turn it off. We went to dinner. DDP is DDP. You know what I mean? Every person that comes to the table, he talks to him. He's throwing up the diamond. He's like, pow. He's to everybody, and you think after a while, I'd be like, wow, another one, really? Okay. I've only done. Oh wait, how original? You want me to do this pose? Okay. It's and again to be able to do it, and I think part of it is they know how quickly it can go away. Like they're one injury away from being irrelevant. You know what I mean? Like it's and they've all gone through stints where don't know if they're ever going to come back. Look at Daniel Bryan, right? Like he thought his career was over. He was never going to wrestle again. And I watched a little bit of the shows behind like the scenes, and so it was with the Bella Twins and whatever. And those are always the best parts when you'd see, Daniel Bryan like talking about like how his career's over and like how much it meant to him, personally to wrestle. Because he was like a fan first, wrestler second, almost.
Right.
And so it was interesting to see that side of things.
Yeah.
I grew up.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I grew up watching, the Real World and Road Rules and the Challenge, and so with that was always fun to see The Miz go. And I don't know if you've heard any conversations any interviews he's done, but he used to sit in the interview rooms that they would have on the Real World, and he would practice being The Miz because he wanted to be a wrestler one day. Like this is what he wanted to do. And so he was giving himself as his who he is through the entire thing. And it's just kind of cool to just see almost like this character be born watching through this MTV show.
Right.
And now go on to be still, and he's now been doing it now for a long time still. It's
over 10 years.
Yeah, it's just crazy to see
be longer than that,
almost
really.
watching him grow up.
Yeah, because it has to be longer than 10 years because I remember watching him. Like I was the same way. I watched those Road Rules where he was every time he would joke around, he was pretending to be this Miz character that he had made up. And this was like him young, and he was like, one day I'm going to be a wrestler. And then he went into NXT or whatever. Then it was funny, like we were talking about Daniel Bryan because I think Daniel Bryan was his mentor in NXT. And they had, a lot of those.
No, it was reverse.
Oh, it was reverse?
Oh, he was Daniel Bryan's?
It was reverse, right. That was the big controversy because Daniel Bryan comes in and he is this long time indie wrestler, artist as a professional wrestler. And then the WWE made The Miz, who came from the real world, his so that's the great storytelling.
Right.
Yeah.
The Miz has been signed with WWE slightly longer than Daniel Bryan, but Daniel Bryan has had a much longer wrestling career. So obviously Daniel Bryan knows a ton more about the art of professional wrestling than The Miz, but WWE twists it to make The Miz the Daniel Bryan's mentor. So that creates all of this controversy, which to me is great television. Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that I was learning watching Breaking Kayfabe, my research into it and all that was all of the terms like heel and turn and all the different, the whole villain, and how the whole art form of wrestling, side of things, before, before breaking Kayfabe, all I would ever seen was just the I guess the Kayfabe of things.
Right. So before any of my wrestling fans, anyone watching, it's Kayfabe.
Kayfabe, sorry.
Kayfabe. Because any wrestling fan is going to be like, this guy is not a wrestling fan. He doesn't know how to pronounce Kayfabe. So I'm going to say that.
My wrestling knowledge is literally almost, yeah.
Yeah. But, I think as a part of the show, learning those like insider lingo terms that the wrestlers use sort of helps you helps you understand the performance art of it, because then you're like, oh, this is the heel, this is the face, this is how they're creating the stories. I think once you understand that, then as an audience member, you then connect to the fact that they're performers. And then once you connect to the fact that it's a performance, you can start to connect to the fact that they're human beings. And then when you connect to the fact that they're human beings, you can start to sort of tell their story.
One of the other things that I love about wrestling is there's almost a third person in every match, right? And that's the crowd, right?
Oh,
and
yes.
you can never really know what the crowd is going to do, right? And to me, part of the fun watching it was to see how the crowd would react. Like, take the whole Roman Reigns thing, right? Here's this guy that they wanted to make the next Rock. They wanted to shove him down as this great champion, and everybody hated him. I mean, I didn't hate him. I thought, but it became like the thing, right? Like everybody was anti him, and the more they pushed him, the more they hated him.
Right.
And I.
But now, he's become a heel now, and he's doing the best work of his career. The thing that sucks for him is that like the whole like wrestling community is like, oh yes, Roman Reigns is doing the best work of his career now that he's a heel. Right. But it just sucks because there's no audience because of COVID. Do you know what I mean? That the last year it's been really tough for me to watch wrestling because just like you said, so much of what wrestling is the crowd and the interaction with the live crowd and the improvisation and the dance that they do with the crowd. Because that isn't there, it just isn't quite the same. But like, man, the work he's doing right now is so good. Like, I watched the Royal Rumble a couple weeks ago with my roommates, and like, he's a star. Like, I recognize like why he's a star. I think they miscast him. I think they were trying to make him Superman,
right? And
Roman Reigns is a little bit more Batman. You know what I mean? And now that he's a heel, I just wish he had that crowd, because that is so, just like you said, it's so much a part of the dance and a part of it. It is the third.
All right, I'm going to go deep here and get extremely personal.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
But what is your wrestling persona?
Oh my God, a wrestling persona. Well, I've always stuck with the wrestling persona I got in college. We were playing, I don't remember which video game it was, but we were playing like WWE video game. And one of my friends created an avatar for me, and I named it, and I sort of kept it. And it was Chocolate Thunder, Tay Under. So I've just kept that. I've just rolled with that. Chocolate Thunder, Tay Under. Even when I say it, I sort of get into that
character.
It seems like it's the right.
Just
character.
fits, right?
Marco, this is where we need somebody working in the background that now would change the name underneath his picture.
Right.
Well, I actually have prepared in here, right? We're gonna do Michael's wrestling persona.
Oh no!
Oh, exciting!
No. Oh, God dang it! Not the pug. It used to just be one screen on the left and one screen on the right. And Marco was on the left and I was on the right where you are. And so Marco needed a place to show off his autograph of the month club items. So he covered my face, but he didn't cover my name tag. So he covered my face, and the picture of that time with the variant was a pug. So it now was a pug, and it said Michael Berkowitz underneath it. So now that's the picture that goes around. We had people screen grab it, and they've used it on different items. And yes, it's the thing.
That was the perfect time. I was trying to figure out how to work it in, and then I was like, "Ooh, you gave me a great opening there."
Oh. You manipulated that situation. You completely manipulated the situation.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I came up with the persona part came first, and then afterward, I was like, "Oh yeah, I can make Michael's persona the pug."
He got you good.
Well, there was a wrestler named Chocolate Thunder, but he didn't have the Tay under, right? Was it a Henry guy? The weightlifter.
It was Mark. He was
sexual chocolate. Yeah.
Sexual chocolate. Yes. So I think there probably is a wrestler called Chocolate Thunder, but like
he performs live in Vegas.
I'm just gonna keep it. Yeah, exactly.
But
I was gonna say I haven't had a chance to do anything like a fringe like that sounds really cool, but I live in Southern Oregon. Have you heard of the Shakespeare Festival that we have here in Ashland?
Yes. I think my friend Paco, who's done a lot of Vampire Cowboy shows, like we were talking about earlier, done some Oregon Shakespeare Festival.
It's a pretty incredible thing because they have that like reconstructed like the Elizabethan theater that they have for the outdoor theater, but then they have these other theaters that are indoor, and they do bring in. And my wife and I are huge theater fans, and we've had some incredible theater experiences there with shows that they have one run and they're here. And if you don't see them here, you never see them again. And it's such an incredible thing. The art, what people are capable of, and the artistic nature that people are capable of.
Yeah. Does Oregon Shakespeare do things other than Shakespeare, or do they stick to Shakespeare?
They always do about 3 Shakespearean plays. Mm-hmm. Usually about 1 to 2 the classic outdoor ones, and then they'll put 1 indoor, and then the rest they do a lot of original. Like we talk, our community does a lot of autograph stuff, and one of my prized Grail possessions is there was this show called The Unfortunates. And you can kind of find some stuff if you search the internet a little bit. But it was this group, they called themselves 3 Blind Mice. And they created this musical. And it was the Unfortunates musical. And it was to this day the best play that I've ever seen. And they had it run 1 season up in Ashland. They did it a little short run in Sacramento, and it's gone. And I feel so bad that people can't experience it, but at the same time, like I'm blessed that I got to. But
absolutely.
They do other stuff. It's not just Shakespeare. They do some amazing independent art, and it's a really incredible festival. And it's I would love to get to do like a Fringe Fest too, because it just sounds so cool.
Yeah. Do they? So that's the thing about theater is that, which is special because you got to have that special experience.
Exactly.
Theater only exists in the space and the time that it exists in, and it's not recorded. You can't. It's not like Game of Thrones or Lost, 2 shows that I love, but I can't go back and be like, let me watch the 2nd season. It exists where it exists, and then the ghosts stay there, the energy stays there, but then it's new things. That's the wonderful thing. But I had a question. Do the shows run in rep? Meaning, do the actors in the Shakespeare plays also do the other plays? Is it typically the same actors?
You will see actors do in different plays, and they do a lot of scheduling manipulation.
Right.
I would say so. There's 3 theaters. There's the Green Theater, there's the Angus Bomer, and then there's the Elizabethan. And the Elizabethan is the big outside theater, replica theater. And So they typically, each one will have, like the Elizabethan will have 3 shows, and it'll be like one show at night and one show in the afternoon, and they'll be different so that the actors can either do the different shows. And then each of the indoor theaters will have 3 to 4 shows. Same thing. They'll have an afternoon and a night, and they'll stagger them through the week. So each one will play like maybe 3 nights a week and two afternoons a week, so that the actors can really, which is incredible to think about, that these actors are doing live theater for 3 to 4 shows. It's just insane to think about the memorization, and that they're going live, and there's no take, like you said, there's no takes, there's no, it's just incredible. It's just an incredible talent.
If there's anybody that's watching that wants to be an actor or anything like that, learn Shakespeare. Because if you can do Shakespeare, you can do anything. Seriously. Because that's why I asked if it was in rep. Because an actor that is like, oh, I'm doing Hamlet and then I'm doing some contemporary play or some other type of thing, they can do it. An actor that can do Shakespeare can do anything. So if you're like, I want to be an actor, study Shakespeare, because you'll be able to do anything.
All right, Michael, just before, if you could do some more stuff from comments, I'll want to tell a little story first, and then if you want to go through this.
Go for it.
So my first theater experience is, I grew up in Oregon as well, and in Canby, and they had just built a brand new theater for our high school. There was like a top high school in the country. And we went to this play in Portland at this theater to see Stomp, I think what it was, like the road, traveling. And it was a really old theater. It was nice. But then we went back to our theater that they just built. We're like, man, this thing is so much nicer. Like, they went all out. Like, every seat had cup holders. Like, everyone was like comfortable. I mean, they spent a lot of money on that theater. And I wish I had a chance to experience it more. I was more of an AV geek and doing video editing, and I was basketball and other stuff that I never got into the theater until like I moved to New York. But the idea that our high school had that capability and that kind of theater to put on shows better than what the traveling show in Portland, Oregon had, just blew me away. But
yeah, it's incredible. It can change your life. A great theater show, because and movies can do the same thing. I think sports can do the same thing. Like, I think art and sports are the things that bring communities together. But yeah, if anybody that has a great experience with theater, I think keep at it, because it's theater is always dying. It's been dying for the last 150 years.
Then Hamilton comes along, or the Phantom Opera, or Cats, or there's that,
or whatever. Yeah, because people still like that human connection. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like that energy inside of the room when some amazing theater is happening. It's just like, I don't think that can ever go away. And
except for COVID.
We've been talking a lot about wrestling.
Except for COVID. COVID, the musical.
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's gonna be so many COVID plays and things.
I'm waiting for all the kids 10 years from now that are gonna be born and their name's gonna be COVID. What's up, COVID?
I actually think. Listen. Hear me out. I actually think just take the idea of what COVID is out of the situation. COVID's kind of a nice name. Like, it is. Just imagine a kid that's just like, hey, what's up? My name is COVID. Like, before COVID, you'd be like, oh, that's kind of a nice name, COVID.
It's not bad. It's better than Rona.
It's better than Rona, for sure.
Way better than Rona. So we don't have we have a lot of people just talking about their favorite wrestlers and stuff like that, but we did have one question, and it's kind of a deep dive here. They want to know what your aim as a practitioner working in the industry is.
My aim at working in the industry.
He's done it all, right? Writer, director, art director now.
Right. Well, like I said before, when I quoted Thornton Wilder, it is art in general is human beings connecting with other human beings, and sharing a sense of what it is to be a human being. I think that my goal and my purpose is to facilitate that in the highest, truest form that I am capable of fulfilling that, of facilitating that. So, right now it's being the associate director of artistic programming at the Redhouse Art Center. I get to choose programming that I can bring to audiences, and I get to direct a lot of that programming. But yeah, I think that is really my goal and my aim and my purpose is to do that, is to facilitate it for as many people as I can to the best ability that I can do it. I when I was younger, I used to want to be famous, and be rich. But as I get older and really focus on the work and the art, that's really what I intend to do. Is get that to as many people as I can on a scale that is realistic for my life to do it. I don't have billions of dollars and I can't spread it to the world, but I can in my community. And as long as I do that, I'll feel fulfilled. And I think the community will as well.
There's a lot of value, not monetary, that theater brings to people's lives.
Absolutely.
That's I said. We talked about this when we did a live, and people were asking Marco and I what our Grail collectibles are, and I have this thing from that show I was talking about that nobody else has, and nobody will feel that way about it, the way that I feel about it, but that's what makes it special. And so,
see, I always argue with autographs, right? That they're more of a souvenir and a memory of a moment, right? And and that's what people like when you're looking at it, when you're collecting it, when you have it, that's a moment in time that you can look back on or remember a show or experience or something.
Absolutely.
That's great.
With that said, I think it's about time for us to wrap this up. It's been great.
This was a lot of fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, we need to do this again.
Definitely. And thank you again. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you guys so much.
Sorry we couldn't get to all the questions. But, all right, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Take care.
All right.